What is up, people of the interwebs? My name is Steffi Harner. I am a freelance model and front-end web developer here in Tokyo, and today I am going to do a beginner-friendly tutorial on making a 3D vaporwave demon skull appear on the mouth open. Yeah, so this tutorial assumes that you have SparkAR downloaded, that you're somewhat familiar with the interface. I will go briefly over it, but if you make a new filter from template, you should have these basic things here. You have your scene panel with your device, your camera, and your focal distance, which has different kinds of lighting, and your mic. And we're going to add different objects into the focal distance to create an interactive AR filter. And we're going to be using some 3D objects that are in SparkAR through Sketchfab, and I will show you how to do that. All right, let's get started. I am going to go into the scene panel and add a canvas. And then in this canvas, we are going to add a rectangle. Let's see, add a rectangle. As you can see, it appeared right here, and I'm going to drag it along so that it fits the height and the width of our device. I'm going to also pin it on the right side so that on the top and the left and the right it is pinned, so that it keeps the full width and the full height of device regardless of what kind of device you're on. All right, so now why don't we go back to this rectangle and add some material to it. So I clicked on the plus button, and we are going to call this material darken material. Okay, and then let's go to the shader properties of this material. Let's choose a nice violet. So that's a nice violet. Go down to the render options, and we're going to decrease the opacity a bit. There we go. All right, so on this rectangle, I'm going to add a face mesh. On this face mesh, if we can go to the side panel, we're going to also add a material there. We're going to create another material, and we are going to call this material retouching. And all you have to do to create a retouching material is go down to the shader type, and from standard, click on retouching. Wow, it's already built into this new SparkAR, and you can make the skin retouching smoother if you'd like, or like less smooth, but I think, yeah, let's do like 70. Yeah, that's nice. Look at that skin glow, that digital makeup. Okay, so now that we have this set up, why don't we add some 3D objects up in here? So I'm gonna go back to the assets panel and click on add assets. And then we're gonna search our AR library, our handy dandy AR library that is built into SparkAR Studio. I'm gonna look for a skull, but not just any skull. I'm gonna look for a vampire skull. I'm going to download this vampire skull. Thank you, Kibby, for making this and submitting it to Sketchfab for all of us to use. And while that's downloading, I'm going to also grab a gem, and we're going to use this gem for the skull's eyes. And let's import this bad boy as well. All right, so it looks like those 3D objects have been loaded into SparkAR, which is awesome. And I don't know what happened to my face again, but it's somehow darkened. And if you do experience this kind of bug in SparkAR, what you want to do is go to the restart button, and there you have it. It's refreshed and I look much better. The retouching material is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Okay, why don't we bring this 3D object into our scene and mess around with it. So I am going to instantiate the vampire skull. Boom! As you can see, it is way too big. So why don't we first reduce the scale. And before I add it to my face tracker, if you're gonna add other 3D objects to 3D objects, it's best to do it while it's not being tracked on your face, because it's really hard to just adjust different 3D objects on top of other 3D objects. Excuse me. All right, so I have this Spinals gem, and I want this to be inside of the eyes of our skull, so I'm going to drag it into the vampire skull, and look how huge it is. So I'm gonna see if this works for the size. Here we go. Yeah, so this is much easier to do when it's not attached to your face and floating. So it looks like we want to rotate this heart. Let us do that. Nice. And I want to push it back into the eyes of this skull boy. So I'm going to go right there. Okay. Alright, let's drag it down a little bit. And then I'm going to copy this gem. This one needs also to be scaled down. Let's reduce it to 0.1 on X, Y, and Z, and there it is. It's right there. So I'm going to just drag it along the X-axis right here so that it's inside of the skull's eye sockets. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. And I'm not feeling the red here. I don't think that's very vaporwave. So you can see that this is the material that is applied to these gems. I actually don't want it to have a material. So what if I delete this material? Let's see what happens. Delete. Yeah, actually, you know what? For me, that is a very vaporwave thing. It's kind of like the background of a Photoshop. You see that a lot in vaporwave contents. So, okay, I'm gonna go back to these gems. I want to make them slightly smaller, actually. Nice, that's much better. Okay. Cool. Let's name this so that this is right gem, and we'll call this left gem. And okay, I want these gems to spin in the skull's eyeballs, so why don't we go to the right gem and go click on actions and animate, and we're gonna spin them. Ooh, and that's not the way I want them to spin. Alright, so okay, so this has created some patches in the patch editor, and so we're gonna go and change this. The reason why it's spinning in that direction in the around on the y-axis is because it starts at 0 and here it ends at 359 instead of spinning on the y-axis. Let's spin it on the z-axis. Yeah, okay, cool. That's exactly what I wanted. All right, cool. And now I want to apply the same action to the other eye. And okay, let's clean this up here. All right, so instead of the y-axis, we're going to spin it on the z-axis. There we go. Nice. Okay, let's restart so that they're spinning at the same time. Okay, great. Beautiful. So now that we have that done, why don't we attach it to the face so that it's following the face with the face tracker. So all we have to do now is grab the vampire skull and drag it onto the face tracker. And voila, there it is. It is tracking on my face. That was very simple. You want to do anything to the 3D object before you add it to the face tracker, because it's a lot harder when like your face is moving with a 3D object like this. All right, okay, so next we want to make it interact with some of the motions of our face. Okay, the first thing I want to do here is on our mouth open, we want the jaw of the skull to open with it. So, okay, I will show you how to do that. We are going to use the patch editor again. All right, so you can right click on the patch editor and you can search different patches, which are functions that you can apply to objects in your scene. And we can look at face finder like this. but this is actually the long way to do it. I'm going to show you an easy way to bring your face into the patch editor. So you just grab this face tracker right here and drag it. Boom. So nice. Okay, so let's take a closer look here. All right, face finder, face select, and it's selecting the first face that it finds on index 0. And we have this face tracker patch that has 4 outputs: face, the 3D position, 3D scale, and a 3D rotation of the face tracker. Okay, we want to get the face, and we want to get the mouth open patch, right? And so the mouth open patch, as you can see in patch info, captures when you open your mouth and how open it is. So this data is in this patch, and it outputs that in a number in the open state: 0 for when it is closed, 1 for when it is open, and openness. And then this is going to be like a decimal number from 0 to 1 based off of the openness of our mouth. So that is what that means. And all right, based off of the openness of our mouth, we want the jaw to move along with it. So right here you can see openness, so we're going to drag it out and attach a transition patch. Okay, so we got the transition patch, and so you can see as I open my mouth, the progress value is increasing. Anyway, so we want to attach this value to the rotation of just the jaw part of our 3D object. So we're gonna go into the scene panel, into the vampire skull. Let's look inside of the 3D object here, and you can see there's 3 parts to it. So right now I am looking at the horns. If I click on this is the jaw, and then this is the skull part of the skull. So let's go back to the jaw, and I'm gonna rename this jaw just so I can remember. And yeah, all right, so if you click on this and you go to the right panel side, you can see the under transformations there is a rotation property, and we're going to click on this and it's going to drop into the patch editor. Woohoo! Okay, and now we want to attach this value to the jaw transformation. And as you can see, nothing's really happening, and that is because our start and end values are way too close to each other. So why don't we start this rotation at a negative value? Why don't we do -20? Cool, you see that? You see how that jaw went back in? And so it's kind of working, but I think 1 is too little of a value we want it to rotate. So why don't we change it to 100? That's kind of excessive. So let's do 75. I think that's okay. Okay, so there we go. The skull is reacting to the openness of her mouth. Awesome. So, all right, so we're starting to get a little messy here in the patch editor, and we can clean it up by grouping these patches together. I'm just gonna highlight these two because this is part of it, and I'm gonna group it together and call this jaw open action. Nice. Why don't we go ahead and group these together too? Gem eye spinning animation. Yeah, I'm not really into this overbite thing. Can I change that really quickly? Okay, I'm gonna go back into the jaw open action, and why don't we position this? Okay, that's slightly better. That's slightly more tolerable, I think. Maybe. Okay, yeah, less of the overbite. Okay, all right. So how do we make this more interesting? So why don't we have the skull pop out of our mouth when our mouth is opening? And the great thing is we already have the mouth open patch here, and so instead of our openness. We're going to use open state. Let's get the pulse. It reacts to booleans, true or false, on or off. So it's going to toggle the animation based off of whether it is receiving a 1 or a 0. Okay, so when it's turning on, we want it to pop out. So let's turn on and grab the animation patch, and in the animation patch we are going to transition. We're going to transition and scale up the skull. Let's make sure we also have it in reverse as well. So let's go back to our vampire skull, and yeah, let's get the scale transformation property. All right, so this is maybe the max. This is about the size we want it to grow to. So I'm gonna grab these values and paste them in the end of our transition patch so that it can grow from 0 scale to 0.1 scale on the X, Y, and Z scale. All right, let's try this now. Let's connect these two. Ooh, there we go. All right, so I think I want it to be slightly bigger, so I'm going to change this to 0.2. Nice. Okay, so I kind of don't like that really slow animation, so why don't we change the speed of that. So if we go back to this animation patch here, you can see at the very bottom we have a duration, and this is duration in seconds. Why don't we change that to 0.5? That's slightly better, but it still kind of feels, I don't know, not so exciting because it's just slowly going out. So if we go into curve at the transition patch, and I am going to go for a sinusoidal in and out. So let's just see what that looks like. Yeah, that's a little better, right? Yeah, it's like a slow start, and then it speeds up and then comes back in that same manner. I kind of want to change this to 0.045. Okay, that's slightly better. Yeah, it's a little more animated. Okay, yeah. You know what? I think the next thing we want to do is when it pops out, why don't we have it like spin out into the screen? So we can do that as well with the mouth openness trigger. And we're gonna, well, first, why don't we group this together, and we're gonna call this skull scale up action or animation. Cool. So we're gonna go grab our pulse patch, and then we are going to add animation. Make sure we bring this over to reverse as well so it can reverse back. We're going to do a transition, and we are going to grab the rotation of this skull and mess around with it. But first, why don't we get the final values and transfer it over. Okay, cool. Let's just 0 here and 0 here. Yep. Oh, and 0 here. Okay. Value, let's connect it to our vampire skull. Cool. As you can see, it's quite slow, but let's just change the duration. Maybe slightly faster. Okay. So now it's like coming from under, but I still feel like that's kind of weird, so. I don't know. Let's make this like spin. Oh, I want it to be like faster. Okay, let's. It's kind of cool, right? 175. Okay, I think this jaw is, oh my jaw is hurting from doing this. Okay, let's go back into this jaw thing, and we're going to not open it as wide as it is. Okay, back to the main. Let's speed this up a little more. Like, I feel like it's so slow. How about that? Okay. Oh, much better, right? Cool. There we go. Okay, now we are going to group that together, and we're going to label it skull spin animation. Okay, so now we have 3 animations on the skull. And okay, let's go back to our rectangle again. And remember when we darkened this up, this material, let's use it in our filter. Let's make it a little more interactive. So again, based off of the openness of her mouth, we want this material on the rectangle to just darken when the skull pops up. So to do that, we're gonna get the open state and do a pulse again. Yeah, and then after that, turned on, we're gonna do another animation. Oop. Grab another animation patch, make sure that the reverse is also connected, and we are going to grab this texture, the darken texture, and add it to our patch editor, and then connect it. Boom. There you go. So now you can see it is normal. The filter is normal when my mouth isn't open, but right when I open it, it darkens up a bit. Darken. All right, and there we go. That's just a really simple filter with a few animations based off of one action in SparkAR. All right, so thank you. Thanks for watching. So I hope that you learned something about SparkAR and using animations with 3D objects in the patch editor. This is super simple, but then just adding like small animations to different parts and properties of the 3D object can make it more fun and interactive and like more believable or natural. I don't know what's natural about a vaporwave skull demon being summoned by opening your mouth, but here it is. If you want me to add on to this filter, if you want me to make it more interactive, if you want to see other tips in SparkAR and working with 3D objects, please give this video a like. Write me a comment if you have any questions about how I made this filter or what to do next. Yeah, and subscribe, bros.